Morning, everybody. Y'all doing good? Good, good. Hey, let's go in the Bible to Mark chapter 5. Mark chapter 5, same chapter we were in last night. All right, I'll ask y'all a question. Y'all like scary movies? Really? That many people like scary movies? Okay, I do not like scary movies at all. I don't understand why. So, my wife and one of my daughters love sad movies. I don't understand that either. They're like, we just want to watch this and cry, and I'm like, why? Why would why would you want to watch that if you know it's like, oh, everybody died? It's just like, what? Why would you want to subject yourself to that? And my wife and my other daughter like to watch scary movies, and I don't understand that either because then at the end of the night every light in the house is on and they're freaked out like every little move or whatever they're just freaked out. I do not like scary. I want to be happy and calm and sleep good at night. I just like happy things, like action's cool, but like I don't want to be scared. So I do have an exception to that though. One night I was in a really weird mood, and it's cold up here in the winter, so I like to go running. So I ran on my treadmill in my house, and for whatever reason, I put on a scary movie while I was running on the treadmill. And I tell you, if you want to up your time running, like run with a scary movie on it. You'll run so fast. Every time like there's a jump scare, you're like, good gosh, like I recommend for scary movies. Okay, let me Mark chapter 5. This is the scariest story in the Bible. I like if you were there that day, you would have been so freaked out. Even reading it, if you really think about it, it's like, ooh, Mufasa. Like, it's scary. Like, it'll mess you up if you really start putting yourself in this spot. It is a scary story. So we're going to start Mark chapter 5, starting in verse 1. We're going to go all the way to verse 19. All right? Now, to set the stage, this happened right before the stories that Brody talked about last night with the woman who had the issue and she reached out and touched Jesus' robe, and the daughter that ended up dying and Jesus raised. So this happens right before that, but it happens right after Jesus calms the sea. Y'all remember that story? Jesus and the disciples are out in the ocean, and it gets really rocky and gets really bad, and Jesus says, peace, be still, and everything just shuts up. And the disciples are like, yo, who is this? The ocean obeys him. The wind obeys him. All right, so they're still in the boat, right? And what they're going to do is they're going to make their way across the sea to this one very specific region for one very specific purpose, to rescue this one specific guy. And Jesus knows what's coming up, but the disciples do not. Mark chapter 5, verse 1, it says this. They came to the other side of the sea. I'm going to start my timer so I don't talk forever. To the country of the Gerasenes. All right. So they travel about 6 miles by boat. They're traveling to a really rural area. And at this area where the Gerasenes are, it's like there's a city and there's cliffs that go down to the ocean, all right? And it says this, and when Jesus had stepped out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit. Okay, so first off, they're going across the ocean after Jesus has just done this wild miracle of calming the ocean, and they're going to arrive at a graveyard. All right. And so, like, up in these cliffs, there were these tombs that were dug out of these cliffs where, y'all, cemeteries are freaky, right? I mean, they're freaky, especially if you try to go at night. Don't do that. It's too much. But, like, imagine an ancient cemetery where there's holes just dug out of the cliffs, and, oh, this one's got ancient bones in it. And it's just freaky, all right? So he's traveling up and landing in this cemetery, and it says, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit. You know what that is? Demons. So there's a man living in a cemetery with demons in him. All right, it gets worse, all right, because this is where Jesus is rolling up to. It says he lived there among the tombs. Freaky. And nobody could bind him or tie him up anymore, not even with a chain, because he had often been bound with shackles and chains. But he broke the chains apart, and he broke the shackles into pieces, and nobody had the strength to subdue him. That's freaky. We're going to see in a minute, this dude doesn't just have one demon, he has thousands of demons just all inside of him. And this, I mean, it's a crazy story where you got this guy who is living in the cemetery and he's just inhabited with demons that have given him like superhuman strength. To where in the old days, they would try to tie him up and he'd break ropes, which I don't know if you ever tried to break a rope, but it doesn't happen, right? And so this guy, they tried. It's a city by the ocean, and so they'd have these big, boat anchors with these huge chains, and so they'd try to tie this guy up with chains. And it said he'd wrench the chains apart, like bend the metal, and that he would break the shackles. Those like the clamps around your wrists and ankles. He'd break them into pieces. So with his superhuman strength, he'd be going dink, dink, and just breaking metal with his hands. And so they didn't even try anymore because he was too strong for everybody in the town. And their boat chains, this guy living in the tombs, is freaky. All right, look at what it says, verse 5. Night and day, among the tombs and on the mountains, he was always crying out and cutting himself with stones. Luke tells us that he was naked for years. All right, so this is a freaky scenario because he's not only too strong to be tied up, he is naked. That's freaky. And he's running around on the mountains crying out and shrieking. That means he is howling on them. And cutting himself with stones, running around naked in and out of the tombs. Ain't no way we're sailing here. Heck no. Now, it's pretty funny because the disciples don't know what they're getting into. They're just like, oh, great, go across the ocean. This sounds great. But they don't know Jesus has invited them to this party. It's wild. And y'all know what demons are. Like, used to be angels and are now fallen. These are, strong supernatural beings, and he doesn't just have one, he's got thousands of these just pin up in him. And this is real danger for all of these guys. This isn't just like a ghost story. This isn't just a freaky movie. This is real danger. This is scary stuff. Nobody in the town can go out here anymore. You imagine a lot of these guys have relatives that are buried in the cemetery. We are not going to visit grandmama. No, sir. The shrieking, no. Look at what happens. He sees Jesus, and he yells and runs at him, and then he stops. It's crazy. Now, Jesus knew that this guy was here, and he came here on purpose. Look at verse 6. When he saw Jesus from afar, he ran. Can you imagine being the disciples and be like, hey, he's running, he's coming. Oh, gosh. Yeah, he ran, and then it says, he fell down before Jesus and cried out with a loud voice, what do you have to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, don't torture me. This is crazy. Now, he's fallen down. He's not like worshiping Jesus. He's acknowledging who the demons inside of this guy seem to recognize, oh, shoot, they know exactly who Jesus is. There's a scream, and then there's a question. What do you want? What are you here to do with me? Please don't torture me. Can you imagine how much power Jesus has? Just think about it for a second. Thousands of demons are scared of Jesus. Can you imagine the disciples like turning to look at Jesus like, oh gosh, this is different. How much power does he have? But imagine if you're the man. So if you're this demon-possessed guy and you got thousands of demons in your head, I don't know how clear your thinking is at this point. But if he had any thoughts on his own, can you imagine how much hope just kind of sprung up real quick when all of a sudden the demons in his head are freaked out? Where they're looking at this man saying, don't torture us, please. Please don't torture. You imagine he just has a spring of hope real quick because the demons know Jesus is more powerful. Verse 9. Jesus asked him, what's your name? And he replied, my name is Legion, for we are many. Whoo! that is freaky. That's freaky just to say that sentence. That is freaky. Now, when he says legion, so a legion was a group of Roman soldiers, and depending on the time period, it's about 5,000 soldiers. So he's saying basically there's thousands of demons in here. Now, again, y'all know these are powerful fallen angels. In the Old Testament, in 2 Kings, one angel kills 185,000 men in a night. So later on, we'll see there's at least 2,000 demons up in here. This is power like's never been seen on earth. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is nuclear power that's just, it has the makings of a showdown. You have these 2,000 angels that were cast out of heaven, and then you have their enemy, this one that cast them out. It has the makings of this big showdown, but the demons, they recognize we got nothing. All 2,000 of us together, we are powerless. And they start begging Jesus for mercy. Y'all, for real, do you know how much power Jesus has? That's why he put these stories in here. That's why he put these miracle stories in here. So we wouldn't just think, oh, he did a lot of good things on earth. He was a really nice guy. He has all the power. Look at the next verse. Now, a great herd of pigs was feeding on the hillside. And they begged him, saying, send us to the pigs, let us enter the pigs. Why? I have no idea. I don't know. Like, why do they have to go in something? Do they have to live somewhere? Maybe they're saying, don't torture us. We won't go into another person. We know pigs are hated by the Jews. Just send us to the pigs. We don't know why they ask, really. Verse 13. So, Jesus gave them permission. In the book of Matthew, it's just one word. He says, go. And they have to obey. And it says, all right, and the unclean spirits came out and entered the pigs, and the herd, numbering about 2,000, rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned into the sea. Have y'all heard this story before? Yo, it's crazy. All right, pause. I spent a long time on a rabbit trail of, are there giant herds of pigs in Israel? Like, why are they shepherding this 2,000 head of pigs? You know, like, why do they have this huge herd of pigs? They don't even like pigs. I don't know. But anyway, like, why did the demons ask to go in the pigs? I don't know. Why did Jesus let them go into the pigs? I do think we have an answer for that. Why do you think Jesus let them go into the pigs? To show that it wasn't an act. It wasn't a magic trick. You know what I'm saying? You ever watched, it's kind of old now, but you ever watched that show, The Carbonaro Effect? You know what that is? It's a magic show. It's on YouTube and all for a long time. It's stupid magic tricks. I love magic shows. I don't know how they work. Like, he gets me every time. Every time he does the big reveal, I'm like, what? Like, I'm very gullible. So he gets me every time. It's great. But you think about, why did Jesus send the demons into the pigs? Because if he didn't, people may just think, you got this guy in on the act. I see what's going on here. You're going to say, oh, he's healed. Look, he doesn't have any demons anymore. But he sends him into the pigs because think about, for just a moment, think about 2,000 pigs committing suicide. I mean, it is a wild, imagine, because there's herdsmen out there that are like shepherding the pigs, whatever. Shepherding? Sheep. What would you call it? Herding the pigs? Okay. It's pretty boring, but yeah, I agree. Piggarding, I don't know. There's herdsmen out there, right? And so basically, he says, go. And all these demons fly out of this one guy and travel and enter these pigs. Here's the question. Could you see the demons? Because that would mess you up for life. I think it'd mess you up either way. Can you imagine these herdsmen? They know these pigs really well. All the pigs are just, just like rooting around. And can you imagine all of a sudden a crowd of 2,000 pigs all at once going, like looking up, and you're like, oh, heck. And they all go, wee! I mean, just freaking out. Have you ever been around pigs? They are loud as heck. We went to this orphanage where they had like 12 pigs, and I don't know, they give like a secret signal that's like, all right, everybody freak out on 3. Ready, 1, 2, 3, and they all just go, wee! And it's you got to cover your ears. 2,000 pigs for these guys, all of a sudden they're just like, wee! And they all just foo, 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 just start flying off this cliff and just boom, 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 all the way down and splashing in the water. And look at what it says. And the herdsmen fled. Oh, heck yeah, they fled. Can you imagine? This guy's like, oh, slicing himself, falling down in front of Jesus, like, please don't torture us. And Jesus is like, go. And then the pigs freak out and go over the, I'm out. I'm done. Look at what it says. The herdsmen fled and told it in the city and in the country. I bet they did. I bet they did. Just pause for a second. Imagine if you're the guy. Man, can you think about that moment when Jesus says go and all of a sudden your head gets clear for the first time in who knows how many years? Like, can you imagine just the finality of watching the pigs go over they're not coming back, they're gone. Jesus has calmed the storm. He showed I'm powerful over nature. Here, Jesus is showing I'm powerful over the supernatural. Jesus is in charge. Look, so the guys go into the city and the country and they tell everybody, and it says, and the people came to see what it was that had happened. Absolutely. And they came to Jesus and they saw the demon-possessed man, the one who had the legion, sitting there, clothed and in his right mind. And they were afraid. Yeah, I bet they were. But look at what they're scared of. Those who had seen it described to the people from the town what had happened to the demon-possessed man and the pigs, and they began to beg Jesus to leave. They're scared of Jesus. You imagine, they've been freaked out by the demon guy for years and years and years, and they're like, I don't know what that was, but what are you? You're stronger than that? I don't understand. Like, you got to go. They're not turning to the man and be like, this is so great. You're getting your life together. Look at you wearing clothes. This good for you, buddy. They're like, I don't know what's going on. You got to go. And they send Jesus away. It's wild that they're not responding to miracles. That's what people all throughout the Bible are saying. Hey, if you show me a miracle, we believe. Nope. Verse 18, as Jesus was getting in the boat, the man who'd been possessed with demons begged him that he might be with him. That'd be a cool end to the story, wouldn't it? Then he follows Jesus around for the rest of his days. Of course, that's fitting. He's got you got a lifelong disciple now. He's bought in. He's got a new lease on life. Verse 19, Jesus didn't let him. Why? Man, this guy's, he's just been saved. Why didn't he let him? I think Jesus telling this guy no is grace on this man and is grace on the town. Look at what it says. But he said to him, go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he's had mercy on you. And the man went away and began to proclaim in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and everyone marveled. Jesus didn't let him come with him because he had a job for him to do. You think about this particular city, they ain't listening to Jesus. They're not listening to miracles. So they always say, show us a miracle. But they would listen to this guy. Jesus sent this man home. You got to think it's the hardest place in the world for him to go. He's not going to get a job now. Not after what he's done. They're going to think he's going to relapse. He's not going to have many friends. I want you to think about this story, and let me just give you 3 thoughts, because we're talking about miracles this weekend. I want to give you 3 quick thoughts on miracles and just what I think we can learn from this story in particular, okay? First one is this. If you don't know Jesus today, you need to know he can completely change you and set you free. If you've ever wondered, like, man, have I done too much for Jesus to overcome? Read this story. You know what I'm saying? If you're not in Christ, you're not truly free. You're controlled by your sin. But Jesus is stronger than that. If he's stronger than thousands of demons, he's stronger than whatever you're dealing with. He's stronger than your screw-ups. You know what I'm saying? Jesus is stronger than your sin, and he can set you free. If you're not a Christian, probably most people in the room are, but there's probably people in the room that aren't. He's strong enough to set you free from your sin, to forgive you. And I urge you to talk to your sugar pleader about that. Second thing, talking about 3 things. Second thing I think we can learn from miracles in this story. Jesus' miracles are to show us who he is. Why did he put miracles in here? He's showing there's not only another realm, but I'm completely in control of it. I have all power. right? This miracle is grace on this guy, just like the stories we heard of last night about the little girl and about the woman. It is grace on this guy, but it's also preaching a larger message to the disciples. Miracles are supposed to raise our eyes from the earthly to the supernatural. You know what I'm saying? From the material world. Jesus is showing, I'm stronger than what your eyes see. You know, miracles, especially when I was young, I used to get so mixed up on miracles because I used to think, man, if I had enough faith personally, I could walk on water. You ever thought that? And I'd go out to my swimming pool, seriously, and I'd do it, and I'd be like, well, if I had more faith, I'd probably do it fully clothed. You know, and I'd do these stupid games on myself where I'm like, what am I doing? You know, it's not that Jesus was doing these miracles to like usher in a new reality, like, hey, Christians don't ever need boats anymore because we can all walk on water if we just had enough faith. It's not about that. It's grace on these particular people, but it's also preaching something about who Jesus is. So while miracles can totally happen today, you might never see one. You might be like, I've never seen a miracle. Well, part of the reason that miracles were here has been completed. We have everything we need to know about Jesus. Can miracles happen today? Can Jesus do it? For sure. Does he do it? For sure. Are they rare? Yeah, probably. But I think that oftentimes we give credit to the wrong things. Y'all remember that story that John told about the airport? Was that yesterday morning? Told that story about the airport, and man, we got ushered through. Man, a skeptic's mind will think, oh, that's just coincidence. Those are just nice people that's not a miracle from the Lord. I think a lot of times our eyes are so fixed on earthly things that we give credit to the wrong place. My oldest daughter got sick. Last year she was in bed. It was bad. She was in bed for months. And we got pretty desperate. You know, like we went to doctor, and we chased a ton of rabbit trails trying to figure out. We kind of got to that. I don't know if you guys have ever been to a desperate point, but like we're praying for a miracle, like literally praying like, God, I don't know. So finally, she went to this doctor in August, and this doctor was pretty weird and tried these weird treatments on her, and we prayed for a miracle because some people that this doctor treats got better, and some people this doctor treats did not get better. Now, my daughter went to this doctor, did this treatment, and almost instantly got better. I give credit to the Lord, to Jesus. Now, could the Lord have used that treatment? Yeah, for sure. You remember that time Jesus spit on the ground and got some dirt, made a little mud pie, and put it on that dude's eyes and healed him? Now, the miracle wasn't in the mud, but the mud was the process that Jesus used. You know what I'm saying? Like God can use mud. God can use a word, a prayer, a treatment, any process really to perform a miracle. But these miracles are here to elevate our eyes and say, oh, it's not just the medicine. It's not just the mud. It's not just the treatment. It's to elevate our eyes above the physical to the real healer. You might say, I've never seen a miracle. You might be right. Maybe you've prayed for a miracle that didn't happen, and I know that happens in desperate times, or you're praying for a health miracle or a finance miracle. I want you to think about this, because this is something I had to wrestle through last year. Think about this. You know that if you're a Christian, you actually have seen a miracle. Does that make sense? If you're a Christian, you've already seen the biggest possible miracle, which is Jesus has taken you from death to life. He's rescued your soul. Every Christian represents a soul-level miracle. Okay, so think back to this demon-possessed guy. Even if he goes the rest of his life and never sees another miracle, he's good to go. You know, look at what happened to him. He's been rescued from that. You know, he prays about something later on. He's okay because he can always look back and say, he took me from darkness to life. He rescued me totally. We can look back and say the same thing. Even if something like what happens to John at the airport never happens to you, we can always look back at the miracle of him saving our souls and say, he's good. And then that grace should make us so bold. Let me get us to the last point, the third point. Seeing Christ's power in you should change everything for you. Seeing Christ's power in you, seeing that miracle, Jesus, just like we saw last night, he's gentle, he's compassionate, he's caring, and he has unmatched power. And seeing that miracle of him saving you, it should change everything for you. Think about the disciples. After all they've seen, now we know they make mistakes later on, but man, they are being built with just rock solid faith to share the gospel. Think about this guy. When he's saved and he goes back into the town, man, he is ready to share the gospel. Look at what it says. This man went and proclaimed in the Decapolis all that Jesus had done for him. Y'all know what the Decapolis is? It's 10 cities. So this dude didn't just go back to his hometown. He went to that town and 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 that town. He went to 10 cities and proclaimed what the Lord had done for him. You imagine everywhere this guy went, people are like, all right, man, all right. What was it like? When you saw Jesus roll up on that beach, like, did you know? Did the demons, were they talking to you? What was it like when Jesus said go? Did you feel them coming out? Like, how did you feel? What was it like getting clothed and then sitting and talking with Jesus? This guy had a story to tell about how Jesus had rescued him, and he becomes God's representative, like God's spokesperson for 10 cities. Jesus doesn't send his disciples to these 10 cities. He sends this dude. And he's able to speak because the Lord had done a work in his life. And that's an extreme example, but man, the difference in your life should be a megaphone for your school. You know what I mean? It should be obvious to everybody, and you can tell how Jesus rescued you. See, here's the thing. Jesus goes into the boat, and he doesn't permit the man to join him. He says, go, tell your friends. Same thing. When Jesus goes into heaven, he doesn't automatically just beam us up with him. He says, go, tell your friends how the Lord's had mercy on you. See, just like the people in this town, they wouldn't listen to Jesus. They're not going to listen to the miracles. But you know who they sat and listened to? That dude. You know you got people on your ball team and in your school that they're not going to come to this camp. They ain't going to go to your church. They ain't going to crack a Bible. But you know who they're going to listen to? You. You're God's representative. You're his ambassador to your school. Like the difference, seeing Christ's power in you should change everything for you. Because the same powerful Jesus that set this guy free has set you free. Or if you're not a Christian, can set you free. And then he can use you to reach people. And like we saw last night, man, he's got so much compassion on us. Here's the last thing I'll say. If this Jesus is for us, who can be against us, right?